I think we have a responsibility to, and I think you've talked about this a lot with other guests on the podcast, is to spend the time and put the effort into supporting people who are interested. And I've always said, if anyone ever contacted me, I'll never refuse to speak to someone. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost me anything to help someone out. And I used to get a massive amount of satisfaction out of watching someone that I had championed. So they've come through the door, I've given them some advice, they've gone away, they've done what I suggested, and they've come back. Watching them put a flying suit on and go flying was, that's a success for me to have done that. It's not an elite club that no one else can join. It needs to continue. So when we walk out the door, the next generation are there better and stronger and more capable than we were. And we've been a big part of making that happen.
When you look back on your time as a sergeant, when you were doing recruitment and what your recruitment efforts looked like, what was successful in what you had experimented with as far as recruitment goes?
So, I mean, we would do open days at the base. So we would, open the doors and invite people to come in and look round. Again, it comes back to the point you just made, Jeff, is that the bases are normally in inaccessible areas. They're not something you can just be out on patrol and call in. So we would actively promote that. We did engage with the media a lot to promote the role that generates the interest, and especially things like Twitter and Instagram. So we'd get out there and we'd encourage people to follow us so they would see what we were doing. Open policing events. So whenever they'd have a recruitment day and they'd have someone from the mounted branch there and someone from the marine policing unit there, we would send a couple of TFOs or a pilot and TFO down there with a little stand, and we would go and show videos and talk to people. We'd do air shows if we could at Biggin Hill. There was often an air show every year. We would go there. And sometimes it'd be a community event where we had the space to land. We'd do an ad hoc landing into a park somewhere and let people come and look at the helicopter and talk to the crew. So just a whole range of things that at the same time as engaging with the public, you're also engaging with the police officers that are policing the public and encouraging them to come up. When I arrived on air support, there was one female TFO. When I left, I would say there were, out of 18, probably a third. And I think that's increasing now. It was never a job that was particularly attractive to female officers. And yet we've had some absolutely brilliant female TFOs. There was no reason for them not to join other than they didn't see it as a role for them. They didn't see themselves in that particular role. And we changed that. You'll see a lot of the time we assume that pilots are men, TFOs are men, cops are, and it's trying to get rid of that perception and say, look, this is for everyone. It's about skill set. It's about attitude. Yeah. And it's about personality. You need to bring a great personality and a whole load of attitude, a good, positive, hard-working attitude. There's long periods of boredom where, you're not doing an awful lot, but you need to be right on it. When that call comes in, you've got to be able to switch on and go and do the job and do it really well. And the final thing I would say is that I think I never, ever let the TFOs forget that they're serving the officers on the street. Our role, our purpose for being there is to make their life safer and easier. So we're privileged to be flying over them in a nice helicopter, looking down while they're in the thick of it. But we should never forget that our purpose is to make their job easier. And we serve them as much as they serve the public.
I 100% agree with that. And I'd catch myself, get called up towards the end of the night to check a roof hatch or something on a building. And you're like you got to go launch for a roof hatch. But then to what to your comment, they're the customer, they're the ones that we need to be providing support for, whenever we can, whenever they ask, instead of, huffing and puffing about it. Like I just need to go,
It's a hearts and minds
I
piece,
catch myself in that. Yeah, for sure. Has the London Metropolitan Police been able to harness the power of social media as of late to help with recruitment from the ground all the way up to aviation?
I think the main thrust of the advertising in London at the moment is around the fact that you can come into policing and be yourself and represent your community and your beliefs within policing. I think it's that London's a very, very diverse community. So it's, you can walk down the street in London, there's practically every language spoken, every nationality you'll come across, and they're all living side by side in this wonderful city. And the police service needs to reflect that. And I think the Met's trying very hard to recruit from the community police officers to police their community. That we have a thing in the UK of, and I'm sure it's the same worldwide in law enforcement, but we police by consent. So we need the public to consent to us being their police officers. We're an unarmed force in the UK. So, I never carried a weapon in my 30-year career. We have firearms officers on the street every day, and there's a significant number of them that are rapidly available if you need them. But it's not the norm. Your average police officer in London is still, in 2022, unarmed. And that's how it's always been here. The prevalence of firearms in the UK is thankfully very, very low. We're not a firearms-driven society. There just isn't that culture here. It's the exception rather than the rule. We do have some issues with knife crime, and I suppose when you can't access weapons, your next weapon of choice might be a bladed article, and that's a challenge for policing. It's a challenge for our youngsters and our young communities. We're still losing too many young men and women, predominantly men, to stabbings and knife-related crime, which is something the police are constantly trying to address. But I think social media is important. The younger generations that are going to come through and be police officers, they're on Twitter, they're on Snapchat, they're on Instagram, they're on all of these social media platforms, and small, very carefully focused bits of content can help to prick someone's interest in the same way that TV program captured my interest back in 1986, 87, when I was thinking, what can I do with myself? And I think aviation's no different. In our social media, we tried on the air support unit to capture every media opportunity we could where it was appropriate. And, we let the cameras in. We did 2 fly on the wall documentaries. They weren't easy. There was a lot of really nervous people who felt that they were going to be filmed saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing. But actually, when the end product came out, everyone was so proud of it, and it really shone a light on what we do, and it improved our internal recruitment, because you can't come straight into air support in the UK. You have to be a constable first, out on patrol, and then there's no time served. You could come after 2 years service, but it's not a direct access route.
Yeah, I feel like the internal recruitment stuff is huge with social media. And I think most departments are missing the boat when it comes to social media and their aviation units.